In the year 1011, in a dimly lit house near the Al-Azhar Mosque in Cairo, a man lived in total isolation. To the outside world, he was a fallen minister, a man who had lost his mind after failing a task for the most dangerous ruler on earth. But inside that darkness, Abu Ali al-Hasan Ibn al-Haytham was perfectly sane. He was faking madness to stay alive. While the mad Caliph, al-Hakim, believed his prisoner was a broken man, Ibn al-Haytham was actually performing the greatest intellectual heist in history. He was dismantling 1500 years of scientific dogma. By the time he walked out of that room 10 years later, he hadn't just survived a tyrant, he had invented the modern world. Today we go inside the cell of the man known as al-Hasan, the father of optics, to discover how a decade of forced silence gave birth to the scientific method. Born in 965 CE in the flourishing port of Basra, Ibn al-Haytham was a product of the Islamic Golden Age, a time when the works of Aristotle, Euclid and Ptolemy were being translated and debated in every corner of the empire. He wasn't just a dreamer, he was a powerhouse of the administrative state, eventually rising to the rank of vizier. But he had a profound problem. He looked at the religious and philosophical sects of his time and saw nothing but contradiction. Every group claimed the ultimate truth, but none could prove it. Disillusioned by the thick mist of conflicting opinions, he turned to the philosophical sciences, mathematics, physics, and logic. He sought a foundation for knowledge that was sensible in its matter and rational in its form. He realized that if truth existed, it could only be found through a process that left no room for human bias. This search for absolute certainty eventually led him to Egypt, drawn by the call of Caliph al-Hakim. Ibn al-Haytham had famously boasted that he could do what the pharaohs never could, regulate the flooding of the Nile. It was a promise that gained him immediate patronage, but it was a promise that would nearly cost him his head. When he reached Aswan, the reality of the geography hit him. He saw the sheer volume of water and the ruins of ancient engineering. He realized the project was a mathematical and physical impossibility for the technology of the 11th century. He returned to Cairo to admit failure to a ruler who famously executed ministers on a whim. To survive, Ibn al-Haytham made a desperate move. He feigned a complete mental breakdown. Under Islamic law at the time, the mad were protected from capital punishment. The Caliph spared his life but placed him under permanent house arrest for 10 long years. Trapped in a room with only a tiny chink of light, Ibn al-Haytham turned his prison into a laboratory. For centuries, the Greeks believed in extramission, the idea that our eyes shoot out fire or sight rays to touch objects. Ibn al-Haytham used his dark room, the Al-Bayt al-Muflim, to prove the exact opposite. He noticed a tiny pinhole of light hitting the wall, projected an image of the outside world, upside down. He realized light doesn't come from our eyes, it reflects off objects and enters them. This was the birth of the Camera Obscura. He observed that looking at the sun caused physical pain and after images. If the eye were a source of light, why would it hurt itself? Through rigorous experiment, he proved that light travels in straight lines and that vision is purely the result of external light rays entering the eye. In his 7-volume masterpiece, Kitab al-Manazir, or the Book of Optics, he transformed optics from mere geometry into a rigorous physical science. He provided the first correct diagram of the human eye, identifying the cornea, lens, and retina. But his greatest insight was psychological. He realized the eye is only a receptor. The act of perceiving, judging distance, size, and shape happens in the brain. He explained how we see one image with 2 eyes and how the brain uses past experiences to complete the images we see. He effectively founded the field of experimental psychology and visual perception while under arrest. Ibn al-Haytham's most enduring legacy isn't just a law of light, it is the scientific method itself. Before him, science was speculative philosophy. If a theory sounded logical, it was accepted. Ibn al-Haytham introduced a cycle of observation, hypothesis, and most importantly, repeatable experimentation. In his work, Doubts on Ptolemy, he gave us the gold standard for every researcher today. He wrote that the duty of the man who investigates the writings of scientists is to make himself an enemy of all that he reads and attack it from every side. He believed a scientist must be skeptical not just of the past but of their own biases. This commitment to critical doubt marked the birth of modern science 500 years before the European Renaissance. His genius wasn't limited to light. In mathematics, he tackled the problem of Alhazen, a complex circular mirror reflection problem that wouldn't be solved for another 900 years, using algebra. He also worked on the sum of fourth powers, a breakthrough that laid the early groundwork for integral calculus. In astronomy, he used the observation of twilight to calculate the Earth's atmosphere at 52,000 paces, roughly 50 kilometers, an estimate remarkably close to modern measurements. He challenged the Ptolemaic model of the universe, not because he had a better religious theory, but because the math simply didn't add up. To Ibn al-Haytham, the universe was a giant clockwork of geometry that could be solved if one were patient enough. Ibn al-Haytham died in Cairo around 1040 CE as a free man and a legend. His Latin translations influenced Roger Bacon, Leonardo da Vinci, Kepler, and Isaac Newton. When you look through a telescope, take a photo with your phone, or use a scientific method in a lab, you are using the tools he forged in a dark room 1,000 years ago. He even has a crater on the moon named after him, a fitting tribute to the man who taught us how to look at the stars. The father of optics proved that a catastrophic failure, like his Nile project, can be the catalyst for a success that changes the world. He faked madness to secure the space to think, and in doing so, he taught us how to truly see. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe to Muslim Biographies. We uncover the giants who built the modern world, because history has the answers if you know where to look.